What is happening, everybody, man? Thank you guys tuning in to episode 307 of Expert Mentors Live. Got Mr. Brett Sikora back in the house. Bro, I had to have the team go back and look. And I said, when was Brett last on? And July 8th of 20.
Dude, yeah.
EML 109. Leading agents into production and creating a culture that's contagious to agents that want more out of life. Man, what a journey over last 5 years. A lot has happened for sure.
Yeah, dude, I would not have thought we were that long ago. And that was like heart of COVID lockdown here in New Jersey.
Yeah. You guys were way locked down. We were still trying to figure out ways how we could, get down to Florida and get some breathing room.
Definitely.
So talk to me, man. When you look back and the size of that team dramatically different than where it was. I mean, what from that point to kind of where we're at? I mean, what was kind of the spark for you to look at and grow and scale differently?
Yeah, it's actually interesting that it's sorry, I'm gonna move my chair a little bit, but it's interesting that was the time, because it brings me back to, I want to say, the state that we were in. That's happened. It's happened to me twice in these past 5 years. So that was, dude, we were in lockdown. I mean, that was one of those things where, March of 2020, the world shuts down, at least for us, and depending on what state you're in, world shuts down. Agents are like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do now? We switched to daily huddles. We were doing, virtual happy hours with our team. We were pulling vacant lists and having agents prospect like homes that we knew were vacant because we could go show them, sell them. Sellers were freaking out. So it's actually kind of easy to get a vacant home listing at the time and prospect it. But we were given that decision where you could either, just hang and kind of like see where it goes, or you can hammer down and you can like really say, how do I get market share right now in that scenario? For instance, we had ISAs, prospecting agents, like in the heart of it to bring them into our organization. And I remember getting calls from team leaders saying like, yo, what are you doing? This is crazy. Stop calling my agents. And I'm saying, yo, that's my job, dude. That's what feeds my family. This is what I do day in and day out. If you want to give me a roster of agents, I'll make sure they're not on my list. I respect you. We're cool. But you can call any of my agents and they're not going anywhere. Like this is that culture that we were like, really marching through when you and I met in July of 2020. And the second time that it happened, and I tell people when things are not great, that's when it doesn't feel like it, but you're really like, if you're getting traction, you're going leaps and bounds ahead of, like, it's going to have such a slingshot effect when things get easier. So then things did get easier. September 2020, it started to come around. And then the next hurdle that we had was 2022, the rates came up. And we didn't feel it immediately in New Jersey. But by Q3, it was almost like September, everybody was just like, maybe rates aren't going to come back down. And they started to think differently around things and they started to pull back. So we were in this next version of, do we chill? Do we shave expenses? Do we just kind of like get through this and see what it's like? Or do we double down and do we hammer right now? And we chose to hammer. And that's fast forward to 2025. What I was saying to you earlier, the tide has been out for 3 years. So now we're seeing these broker owners, these team leaders, these folks that maybe they scaled back or maybe they hammered and it didn't work. And now they're in a financial or agent atrophy issue or cultural misalignment. And I don't want to say they're giving up, but you're starting to see, a lot of older broker owners are just, they're rolling up at this point. They're moving on. Team leaders are saying like, hey, maybe there is a better option. Maybe I could be within a platform where I don't have to worry about my individual profitability as much. And I can do what I'm really, really good at and focus on that. So those were the two big things that happened, within the last 5 years that have kind of created where we're at today as an organization.
What were you looking at to take, I'm always interested in not the decision, but how you came to make the decision. What was kind of that? What were you looking at? What were you paying attention to make that first decision to hit the gas and not play defense? What was that you were kind of looking at in the decision, helped you make that decision?
I think that for me, when I realized that like this is the world we're in for longer than we want to be in it for, I think I was telling the agents in our organization we shut down March 13th. It was a Friday the 13th. I remember that Monday, nobody in New Jersey went back to work in person for probably 2 years after. Like, it was a while. But by April 4th, the consumer that was entering our world, like by April 4th, I don't know why I have that date stuck in my head, but I remember it clearly. That's when I was saying, if you've met them from this day on, these people are transacting in this market. So client got furloughed. They don't want to buy right now. Cool. We're moving on from them. We're here when they're ready, but we have a whole new pool of buyers coming through right now. And I was able to identify that they were 1000% willing to transact. They had job security. They'd already gotten past that furlough and everything. And they knew like, hey, my business is going to make money in this, and we're going to be okay. So that's where it was. I was able to figure out that there was a whole new world of buyers that weren't panicked like 90% of the realtors were, and they were willing to transact, and we hammered and we went after all of them. So it was a calculated decision. But I could sense it. And that's when I was like, okay, it's go time. We're going to go get realtors. We're going to go do, we're going after it.
Dude, I think that's such a great distinction, and not paying attention to what your peers are doing around you, but actually getting into the data of what's truly going on here. And I think it's the, looking for the opportunity, because in any market, you've been playing this game long enough, in any market, there's an opportunity. So, do you sit back and become paralyzed with everybody around you, or, do you know to start looking where the dang opportunity is, and then being able to go solve that problem instead of just sitting back waiting for things to clear themselves out. On the growth side of things, Brett, yourself, and at this point, man, you've talked to so many team leaders, and you've seen, under the hood. Most of them grow accidentally, right? They catch the wave and they ride the wave. What did you guys do after you saw that opportunity? You saw the buyers. You're like, okay, there's something, here. Let's go do this. Let's hammer on this. But once you knew you had that momentum, the decision did you make to grow on purpose as you guys went from 12 to 80 plus agents where you're at now? What were you intentional about to make that growth jump?
Yeah. So much like I mentioned earlier, where I was like, this is my job. This is what I'm going to do. And I apologize if you're on the other side of the table of this, but it's how we eat. So, it's a sales job, man. It's a numbers game. Nobody focuses on the amount of, like, you take a Mike Ferry agent, which is like my background. You take marketing base. You take, okay, cool. How many billboards are up? How many mailers are going out? All of this. Like, let's focus on all of the data to figure out what an ROI is around conversion. How many of these lead into a listing lead? How many listing leads actually get held? How many turn, so on, so on, so on. Nobody does that for recruiting with these smaller teams. Nobody's focused on the numbers thing. So like you're saying, they grow by accident. They have somebody that reaches out to them. They like doing the transaction. They jive well. And they're like, hey, let's date. This is a great idea. There's actually no process to figure out whether or not they should be dating that person. And just dating can be very costly with the wrong people. I've seen scenarios where they bring in a toxic person to their organization. That person then internally spoils the whole thing and then pulls that organization out. And overnight, they lose like 7 agents, and they're only a 9-agent team. Mm-hmm. I hear that. I've like seen that story far more often than I want it to be. So for us, we don't take new agents. We don't take part-time agents. We may make an exception on either of those. Like if a part-time agent's already grooving, doing 10 million a year and they're a firefighter or something, cool. We'll rock with you. We'll make this work. If a brand new agent comes in, they're like, hey, I hated corporate America. I quit my job. I got 2 kids. I got mortgage payment. I'm going to make this work. I'm like, cool. We'll rock with you too. But if you have both of those, it's really tough to make real estate work. So like if you're brand new and you're part-time, that's just like a definite no for us. And when I look at a lot of these organizations too, from a team standpoint, they have brand new agents in their world that are part-time, that aren't selling homes, that are on their roster that should not be here. So that was another decision we made in fall of 2022. We said we are no longer going to recruit new agents. And I want to say for probably 2.5 years, we might have let 3 or 4 into an organization of like 200. So that's how many like did not make the cut, or we just wouldn't even get into the conversation. From there, we launched a mentorship program this year and everything. We started bringing back the new agents. But what we did that really worked for our growth is we built an organization that was for the producing agent to go sell more homes more efficiently, more effectively, enjoy more free time with their kids, more vacations with their spouse, whatever the goals may be, buy more investment properties. Like we want to go in and geek out on that. So our organization was built with that as the avatar. And much like we were, rapping about earlier, we can get into a conversation with an $80 million producer and clearly show how their world will be better in our world if they run the play that's designed for them to run. So that's a long-winded way of saying, as a team leader, deciding what your avatar is even, an important piece of the puzzle.
Is it just out of fear and not having a recruiting or hiring process? You don't know what to say no to, yes to. Is that kind of where they get caught? Oh, I like this person. I think sometimes I'm just, even as I'm talking out loud, I think optimistically we believe we can help everybody. Doesn't mean we should. It just feels that way. Is that how they sometimes allow those part-time agents? Because I see it all the time, as well as you do. And it's hard for them to just say no, like, no. It's like, no, you got to be full-time. You got to commit, or like you said, professional that's not going to rob you of resources, but still getting after it in their off hours. Why do team leads allow these part-time agents on their team?
I did. Like you want numbers, you want bodies at the beginning. You want to say you have a team of 10 people. You want to say you have a team of 8 people. When we're, running the M&A model, which we spoke about earlier, one of my first questions that I have to the team leader that's coming in is, who in your roster should not be here when we switch? Because this is a really good time to punt, those folks. And I'll go in and, I don't want to say scare them, but I will get real with them and get face to face and say, like, are you committed to this? Do you want this? I want you to want this. We have racehorses back here. They want racehorses around them so they can all run faster. Are you interested in that? And if the answer is yes, I'm like, cool. That's it. That's my test. Like, let's rock. Here's what it looks like. But if they're kind of like, I don't really want this guy to like care if I sell more homes or not. That's not who we're looking for, Yeah.
I love that.
One of I always one of my favorite recruiting lines, just since we're on the topic, is I always say, like, if you want to be better than where you are today, like if you want to grow, if you want to hammer, if you want to have, like, if you want to go back to when you swiped your credit card to get your real estate license and live that dream that you had in your head with the Lamborghinis and $3 million a year, whatever it may be, I'm your guy. If you want to stay where you're at, though, and you feel like this feels good and you like your broker because he's a good friend and that, like, I will completely upset you. So like that sentence, it leaves the complacent people there and it wakes up the person that's like, yeah, what am I doing? Like, I didn't get my real estate license, make 72 grand a year. Like this, let's go. I got a family. It's go time. So
yeah. I've seen quite a few that just kind of default into, next thing they know, they've got 3, 4, 5, 6 people that just organically not even sure how it happened, but it happened.
Yeah.
Looking at anybody that is thinking about making a jump in growing. Obviously, we touch the hot stove. It's always easier, looking back. What would you tell them? Like, listen, besides be clear on the avatar, are there any other systems or structures you want to have the plumbing in place before sheetrock and close everything out and finish everything up? Like, what needs to be in to limit, I'm not going to say prevent, but limit the amount of chaos that growth brings?
Yeah. So I think too, like to the question, and I always had this with listing appointments with buyer, like when I was taking out buyers, whatever, but like you have to ask, is what you're bringing them into actually better for them? Like, is it built? And do you have an onboarding process, or do you have a mentorship process, or like what you have to have a process of some sort? And
Right.
you can go on Chat GPT and have it like create something for you. You need a play that you need to start sticking to. It doesn't need to be perfect. And ours is still like getting audited and changed as things go. We actually found out recently we give people too much information when they start to onboard with us. So like we're trying to get it, in stages now so that they're not just getting hit with a fire hose when they come through. So like you want to always be playing around with that. But one of the things that I say to people is that your pipeline's not big enough. So like you're just taking like 6 agents reached out, they want to join your team. You took all 6. That's awesome. You just recruited 100% of the people that have expressed interest in joining with no avatar identified. And the reality is when we look at our numbers, we have about 20 conversations, either starting from me or they're starting from us. From those, usually get into about 10 meetings or so that will then take a deeper dive, like a gap analysis, a needs analysis. And then from there, we'll get into about 5 that'll really like be like this, let's explore, like let's make an offer. Some people don't like our splits, so they don't join us. Like that happens, it's okay. But we have a standard around splits, and we know why we have value in regard to the splits that we put on the organization. And then from that, about 2 agents join. So it's about 10% of everything that has a conversation that becomes a lead actually ends up in the organization. So when you look at those 60 folks, those 6 folks, did they have 66, or 60 conversations in order to get down to that? And if they focus on like that simplicity of it, even when you're hiring a transaction manager, they hire the first one that they meet with that makes them feel good. But there's no process to actually make sure they're the right person for that. There's no working interview. There's no, go meet with 20 transaction managers, and I guarantee you'll find somebody that's really, really good in that mix of folks.
Yeah. Is that the move that looks good on paper, but at the end of the day sucks all the profitability out of the team growth, is just bringing on anybody with a pulse instead of really vetting them out? Because, you bring in all these people in, you're robbing resources, that's taking time away from the team lead, which takes them out of production. Is that kind of the thing that probably hurts profitability the most, or is there something else?
No, I would say that, and then I went through it, but people spending money to go try to solve the problems too. So like, let's say you bring on 6 folks, they're killing you from a time standpoint, which people don't value their own time. They don't realize how much of a resource that is that goes into folks, especially if you have that agent, I would say like your average team leader, just an average. Like if we looked at EXP across the board, maybe it's like team leaders doing 8 to 10 million or something like that, then creates this team with, 6 people like we're talking about. And then that's like, maybe they'll do another 4 million or so, it's like that 12 to 18 million, maybe. Same with KW. Like that just seems to be a pretty common messy team size where like you said, it's not really a team. The profitability stinks. And that's the thing, like that team leader without the team would just make 250 grand a year, and live a much more simple life. But when you start to get pulled into these 1-hour meetings and you're making 250 grand a year, what is that? $400 an hour, I don't know what it calculates to, but it's a decent chunk. So you're getting pulled aside and it's just zapping you on that. It's creating fatigue within your own world so that it becomes more difficult to go create $250,000 again in income. And you just start to get spread thin. You start to burn out. You're trying to solve all this with all these gotta minutes. And then that's when the hire comes on. You make somebody a director of sales, or you make them a sales manager within your organization. But is that the right person that's supposed to be doing that?
Yeah.
So that's the game, man. It's like when you have the right people that want to grow their business with the right amount of time allocation, the sky's the limit. And I hate to say it, but like we were just in, a large team meeting, and we're talking about how do we grow everybody internally by 20% year over year. And my answer was one-on-ones with them. And it's not systems, and it's not this, and it's not that. It's like, what is important to them around their goals. And that's coaching, man. It's like, coaching doesn't provide a system. And coaching tells you how to run a system, how to run a play, how to pull on your why, how to make you get to wherever you want to go. So I think that a lot of people think, I need fellow to do this. I need this to do that. I need that. I need a huge marketing budget. I'm like, no, you need your agents to make contacts. You need your agents to have conversations with people that they already know about buying or selling real estate. And here's the script,
Have a conversation and build a relationship. I mean, it's like fundamentally, don't overthink it. It still is, it's a trust game, right? Especially more and more so we're moving into, and obviously with AI and content, and it's like, okay, what do I really trust? Yeah. And I think that's where the deepening of the relationship, and for you, your customer has moved from the buyer and seller to the real estate agent. So how do you continue to build trust with your client, which is the real estate agent? And that has to be the one-on-one touches, right? As much as, I love from a time aspect, one-to-many, you still have to incorporate a one-to-one to truly make that impact. And that's where you said from a coaching standpoint, because it's easy to hide in a one-to-many if you're an agent, in a many and you're coming to one, but it's easier in a one-to-one situation. For what I think our coaches are really instrumental. I mean, they bring a lot of different things to the table, but the big thing is just helping hold that mirror up, right? For you to get a good look. But they can also take the mirror and over here on the side in our blind spots, what we can't see, and they give us some perspective to be able to see it. And you, as a team lead, you do start to wear that coach hat as you're coaching your leaders, you're coaching your key people. And it's one of the things that I love what you said, before we came on, was our next evolution is leaders creating leaders, us pouring into that first level of leadership, giving them the tools to pour into the next level of leadership, giving them the tools to pour in the next level of leadership. And that creates that culture and that organization of leadership, which is everything. And that, you don't get to the size that you're at without leadership.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And it's a fun game to play. All of this, dude, these are all games. Like, this is like it's like, you know what I mean? It's like it's a different level of a video game where it's like the Matrix. It's like, let's go have some fun. Let's go bend some rules. Let's go do things.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I just dig it. One of my, like this is a little extreme, but one of the things I say too, like, let's say that team leader with 6 people on their team that none of them are pending right now. Let's say your average price points, $500,000 a month, or $500,000 in your market. If all 6 of them pen, that's $3 million in pending per month. So like, let's say if you can get 3 million per month, that's 36 million out of those 6 people, in theory, that could be closing. And then if I say, cool, if I were to put a gun to your head and say, you need to get all of them to pend every single month for the next 12 months, what are you going to do? And it's like, you'll do whatever it takes. And none of it is like saying, hey, go into that giant mastermind once a week and I'm not going to watch you go do it. And then like, it's like, no, I'm going to go knock on your door because I'm going to die unless you actually pend a home this month. Come on, you're coming into the office with me. Let's go. We got to make calls. We got to go. But that's like, again, it's an extreme, but it's the simplicity of this where anybody's capable of pending a home. Like, anybody can do it. We have agents that are not well scripted. They're not great at getting into rapport right away with folks. You might have a strong accent, whatever it may be, but through like repetitious, boredom and actually doing what their job is, which is having a human connection with folks at scale, they build a pipeline and people transact.
Yeah. It is. I mean, it's pretty simple. We tend to overcomplicate it, or it's what I see with agents overcomplicating it. And maybe it's they want to over entrepreneur it or whatever the case may be, but like keep it simple.
Yeah.
For you, brother, on kind of the growth, right? So you're making this, we're gaining that traction, we're gaining that momentum and kind of shifting out of growth, right? Because the way I think about growth is sometimes our revenue and our expenses kind of ride together.
Yep.
Right. And then you can get to, where we have, to where we can kind of flatline out on the expenses, but our revenue keeps growing, start to scale. Right. So things that we could utilize across other aspects. We're not just keep adding expenses. When you guys started, making that jump, and if somebody's thinking about kind of an expansion standpoint into new markets, when did it start to make sense for you guys, or when would it have been, oh man, that was a mistake? What should be thinking about? Because I know you're going to laugh because you're going to go to the mistake, but when does it make sense and when does it not?
It never makes sense. Don't expand. It's crazy. It's crazy. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
You have to have the cap. So you have to have your core business. New Jersey's our hub, right? Like, so everything spins off of like, we have the most amount of staff in New Jersey. We have the most amount of agents in New Jersey.
Most amount of offices in New Jersey.
Most amount of offices in New Jersey. The economy of scale is there. So we're able to take profitability from New Jersey and then invest it in other markets. But what I would say is that you have to have a strong leader in that market. I would say that's like the big, you need that, like, that person can grow. That guy or gal, they are like a magnet for real estate agents that can come into that. So, if you're looking within like the XP umbrella, for instance, who's a really good recruiter that like doesn't have a sales system behind them to help them recruit even more? That could be your person. And then I would make the decision to go in around that person. One of the things I personally do with our expansion is it has to be a very dense area of real estate agents as well. I had an opportunity to go to Palm Beach, for instance. Gentleman was doing 50+ million per year, wanted to do something with us. I got on Zillow, I searched the realtors in the area, and I was just like, I don't think, like, what I'm seeing, I don't think I can go in and like do damage here, but like a Fort Lauderdale, Orlando, Tampa, those Austin, like those are all areas where like, I know I'll jive well with the realtors. I know they'll understand tech. I know that we'll have like a funnel that I can actually pick from. So like that's the Tammy Pack. She's our sponsor. She's in Fredericksburg, Texas. There's only so much of a market there. So at some point you can't grow beyond that. So we look for areas, we're in Bellingham, Washington. We're in Chicago, Illinois. We're in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're in Orlando and Sarasota and Tampa. Like it's areas that you can just, the sky is the limit. You can go well over, you can do billions of sales in those areas with hundreds of agents to choose from, thousands of agents to choose from.
Dude, that's such a great way to look at it. And instead of thinking that you're going to go into this small little town where there's, how much opportunity is really, really there. So I love that distinction to be, mindful of before just expanding to expand, because you got somebody that wants to, like you said, the gentleman down there in doing the 50 million. Let's flip the script. Okay. So say you're a team leader. What do I need to know as a team lead? What do I need to be clear on financially before being open to expanding or merging with you?
Yeah. I mean, I think that understanding your finances is a big piece of the puzzle too. Like, I think that a lot of folks, when I look at team leaders' P&Ls, a lot of them, like, let's say they're profitable. Some aren't profitable, but let's use a profitable one. Like I was saying to you earlier, let's say somebody's doing 30 million a year in production, their team's doing another 50 million, they're doing 80 million altogether. When I look at their P&Ls, a lot of times that 750 grand in GCI that's coming from that 30 million is actually losing money on the 50 million of what's happening within the team, because there's a marketing person that's hired specifically for the team, or there's paying 15 grand a month to get Zillow leads that aren't getting converted by the team, or whatever it may be. I think that from a team leader standpoint, it's being very clear and aware around like what your P&L looks like. And then we can have an educated conversation around how we're able to change that and make that better day one with the idea of a merger.
Yeah, that back to the just fundamental knowing what the heck the P&L is and what, what makes sense, right? What's driving it, what's sucking it down. Our big thing obviously is, obviously with profitability within the salary cap, but like most people just don't know those things, and they get there because they stress their way just out of sheer hustle and just stacking as much cash as they can, but they don't really, understand or consistently pay attention to it. So I love that. Just know the financials before even thinking about it, and really what's driving the business. And like think about this. I mean, even the teams that are built on kind of one pedestal of being one of these referral portal companies that like understanding your customer acquisition cost, right? And they're like, well, I only make this, it only cost me this or whatever. And it's like, yeah, but you're giving on a $10,000 commission, you're giving $4,000 for a customer acquisition cost because it's a 40% referral, but they don't know how to look at the math. The math is not 6,000. The math is 10,000 top line revenue. You got 40% out in cost of sale. And then if you got an agent on that deal, like you're splitting 60%, right? You're making $3,000. You're making 30% off of that. So it's just understanding the financials. I love that. What for you, back to your side of the story, when you guys started scaling across markets, coming out of Jersey, going into, like you said, into the Raleighs, getting out in Chicago, all the way out in Washington, what started to break first?
Yeah. When we first, so Chicago was our first expansion. We one of our top agents, Dan Spitz, crushes it. Was from Chicago originally, wanted to move back home. And I was like, yeah, let's go do it. I thought that my whole core in New Jersey was going to be able to support him there doing what he's doing. So I would say that what broke was the fact that it was very difficult to, like, even transaction management. Like, I thought that New Jersey housing that was going to be able to take care of that. So we ended up having to go third party on TC. So that became an extra expense that I didn't think was going to be happening. Then he grew, which is a good problem. So then we ended up having to go get an office, which I didn't think was an expense that was going to have to happen as quickly as it did. It was, again, good problem to have. Then he needed somebody to like manage with him, because he's also still a killer listing agent that like we're talking about time getting put away. So there's an expense that came along with that, where we hired somebody for there. And it just keeps going and going and going. And that's why, like, I would say from a mistake, or like what I didn't know, like we didn't have a plan on what production levels needed to look like in order to then release another hire as it goes through. And I just, like, we have that playbook now. So that, okay, cool. When you're at 100 million and then you're going and you cross over the 200 million line, we're going to need a larger office for the folks that are coming through, or we're going to need a dedicated marketing person to be in your office, working with the agents, editing their videos, doing all that stuff. But that's what I didn't know, and I didn't think about. So we went into the red on that for probably 2 years. Like, it was and that's what I say with people like looking for expansion. Like, it's sexy. Gary Keller pushed it, so people started doing it. But like, I don't know Brian Gubernick personally, but from what I see, I think he pulled back on all the expansion. He was like the king of expansion. So I just tell people, like, be very cautious with it, because there's so much business to be done, like, in New Jersey alone. I could do billions and billions of real estate specifically in New Jersey, in a New York City suburb area. Florida, if you're in Orlando, if you're in Sarasota, like, you can just do all of that. All of our offices in New Jersey, they're just like a 45-minute drive from one to another, but it's a 90-minute radius of New York City, with Hoboken being like the epicenter. And that's just like, you can do so much damage there. So point being is, yes, it's sexy to go launch in Chicago. It's sexy to talk about 9 offices in 8 states. But the reality is, I have a 1,200 square foot office in Hoboken that has 72 agents tagged out of it. They come in with their stuff, they leave with their stuff. There's usually never more than like 5 or 8 in there at a time. It's never like people have closings there and stuff. It's a beautiful office. It works really well. But that's profit. That's what profit looks like.
It's interesting, right? At certain pivot points, right? You pivot on, head count, you pivot on transaction count, right? So it's like understanding those things to when you start to, make additional resources on certain pivot points. But to your point, as you were kind of talking through there, if somebody's thinking about it, what would you say, like the number one question that they have to answer if they're thinking about expanding?
Why? Like, it's really a lot of times it's an ego-based decision. It's like, why do you really want to do that? The number one thing I would say would be call Brett or call John, and let's talk about why you want to do that. What is the real reason? Now, for me, top producer moving back to Chicago, I love them. I want to work with them. I want to do some damage with them. Like, we're killing it now. It just was 2 years of like, this is hard. It was really hard. And now it's like, no, now we're grooving. So I had an emotional connection to an absolute badass that I wanted to continue to work with. And that's like my why in a lot of the areas that we landed, is like a badass comes across my desk and I'm like, let's rock. Like, I'll have this not make sense for 12 months or 18 months financially, because I think we can go do some really big and bad things together. That's how Florida just came about. We tried Florida 2 years ago. We kept everything up and running. So we were still like connected in Florida, and we had a couple agents there. And then somebody reached out to me and was like, yo, I got a killer in Florida. And I was like, I don't want to do Florida. And they were like, no, I got a killer. And I was like, okay, let's meet the killer. So we met with Jamie. She's out in Florida. She's awesome. And I said, Jamie, if I'm going to launch in Florida, I want to have 150 transactions like recruited the day I say go. So go get people in front of me. I want more killers. I want to see these people be recruited on an idea, on a concept. So then she fills up the room with a Zoom, and there's 12 people on it. And I'm like, all right, cool. And then Chris Tarda, who's one of my big New Jersey guys, he flies down. He's meeting with them. And then Chris was the one who originally called me. He's like, yo, Florida. I was like, all right, Chris. And then so he's in another room. And then I get on another Zoom and there's 12 more people. And I'm like, all right. You guys are, you're doing the work without a job right now still. Like, you're doing the work on an idea to prove to me that you can do it. And I'm like, so Jamie and Chris just rocked it. And I'm like, cool, let's launch Florida again. Let's do it. What's funny about that, then another gentleman who's, I can't announce him yet, but he's coming in. And his right-hand gal, they reach out and they're like, I saw you're in Florida now. And I was like, yeah, we're here. And they're like, we like you. Let's talk. Let's talk about it, So anyway, that's how, like, I'd venture to say between, it's December, we should check back in 1 year. I'd venture to say with what's happening in Florida right now, we'll probably have like 300 plus closings in the next 12 months. Like,
that's awesome.
And so I couldn't say no. I would say, like, investment property, any investment property I ever bought, it was financially irresponsible for me to not buy the investment property. It was such a good deal that I would go do a capital raise. I would call my dad and ask for a couple bucks. I would do, like, I had to buy it because it would make money. And anytime that I just bought an investment property to buy it, but I didn't need to buy it because it wasn't a screaming deal, I would like break even or lose money. So that's like, look at the realtors that are coming into your world, or look at the expansion opportunities. And if you're like, that person's different, this person's like awesome. And if the market supports it, like I said earlier, then it's like that's my why, at least. That's why I'm like, and my why is like, dude, I want agents around me. I want leadership around me. I want staff. I want everybody to truly live that like swipe the credit card moment, and have the best experience possible in the world of real estate, because it's been an amazing thing for me. And we're continuously growing our world as big as we could possibly get it, so that, 5 years from now, somebody could be sitting at my level within my own organization, because the thing just keeps leveling up and doing, really cool things.
Brother, I love that. The, just as we kind of wrap up here, there was so much wisdom in what you just shared right there. And I mean, I love the distinction of, it's not like a screaming deal. I buy it to buy it. It's kind of a break even, but it's almost like Tim Ferriss, right? It's like either a hell yes or it's a no.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I'm hearing. That's what it kind of feels like. What other message do these team leaders need to hear right now?
I think that the hell yes. I use a gut check a lot of times where I'm like, if something feels funky, if it feels like just a smidge of like, this doesn't feel like this is going to work, or this person's going to do something funky, or I question their integrity, say that too. That is an absolute no. It is very empowering and like freeing to say no. And like know your worth as a team leader, and know your worth. And also like, this is how I always think about it. Think about like who's already in your tribe as a team leader. If you bring in a shithead, that person's pulling you away from the people who are not shitheads to like have their best experience. So we see that all the time too. Be cautious as a team leader, where you have like 6 agents, for instance, 3 of them are killers, 3 aren't. And you're putting time into the 3 that aren't, because they're asking stupid questions all day long. And you haven't even done like a 2026 goal setting thing with your 3 that are killing it. They're looking at companies like ours right now. They're talking to us because you're ignoring them, thinking they're okay because they're just running on a high team split or something and like doing their own thing. But you've never sat down to actually ask, are you happy? Are you really fulfilling? Like is life what it should be right now? What do you want to do? What do you want out of this? And if you, again, back to my like one-to-one, like it's not a system, it's not a process. It's like, go connect with that person and let them know that you are here, you're listening. You want to make sure that you are going to support them in whatever their goals are for 2026. Let's get clear on them and let's move towards that. And it's, you don't need a ton of tech. You don't need anything fancy. You need to be able to make their life better.
I don't know if you ever went down the infusion rabbit hole, but, Clayton Mask, CEO, and we were in Clayton's mastermind for many years, and, had to fly out to Glendale, had to fly out there, 3 times a year. And we would always like, man, do we have to go? And we would, be leaving and be like, man, this is the greatest. I can't believe we were even thinking of not going. But one of the Claytisms, if you will, that he would always say, and he reminded of, to your point, was B players are who you spend time with instead of your family. And that really resonated to your point there, that we're exhausting spending time with these B, maybe C players, and we're not focused on the A players and spending time with them. And so it's just a great reminder. I love that. And I'm hoping the team leaders that, will listen to this understand how important the one-on-ones truly are. Brett, take us home. What are you most excited about into 26, the next phase of the team's growth?
I think for us, what's super fun is, we'll do about 650 million this year in sales volume, and, over 1,200, 1,300 transactions. And, we're freaking stable, man. So like we are feeling good. We were just at Triple Play in Atlantic City last night. We had an amazing, year-end party, rented out a big bar, and, I barely have a hangover today, so I behaved well enough,
Good.
But dude, we're feeling good, man. We are just really feeling good and feeling like we have lightning in a bottle right now. So like I said, with Florida, with everything we're doing, I'm excited to see what's happening in 2026, because it feels dialed in.
Yeah. Some of the things you shared off camera that I'm excited to hear will continue to improve that value proposition, which just makes you guys even more attractive and more value to be able to pour back into. And I mean, you're sitting scale, so you'll be able to pour back into, the agents, and especially the agents that are, you know, bought into the vision, bought into what you guys are trying to accomplish. I think you've set the vision so large that everybody coming on board knows they can accomplish their dreams by aligning and riding with you guys. So kudos, brother.
Nice, man. I totally appreciate it.
We will, let's do it again. And a lot sooner. We're not going to wait 5 years to do this again.
No, I love it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Appreciate you, brother. Thanks, guys. We'll see you.